10 minutes past the hour here on the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm joined by the coach. Coach, what's up, man? Thank you for joining the show.
What's going on, Dre? How you doing, bro? Welcome to be here.
I'm good, man. You're really loud right now. I love it.
Oh, you want me to turn down? Turn down a little bit better? Better?
Just a little bit.
Okay, how about now? Much better?
Yeah, it's better.
All right.
Well, dude, man, hey, it's great to have you on. I'm a big fan of your channel. I love watching. If you guys aren't watching the coach's play-by-play when he does it for the Niner games, dude, it's the greatest thing. I feel like I'm watching the game with you. Every time, and this is bad because this is what you don't want, but I guess you do want it. Every time the Niners fuck up, I go straight to his channel, to his live stream, and he's like, God damn it, what are we doing here? And I'm like, yeah, that's right. And then when we score, obviously I tune in as well. So it's great because when you watch it on X, there's always a delay, you know? So after something happens, then I tune into the coach, and I get his reaction to it. So it's a lot of fun. But, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And I swear to God, I don't know what happened this past week, but the 49ers look like the old 49ers, at least from last year. What was your take on the game and how the Niners played against the Bears?
I mean, 452 total yards on offense, giving up only 94 yards passing to overall for team stats, rushing the ball over 130 yards on the ground. Some of my hot takes for the game coming in were, play the hot hand, make sure that we find George Kittle in the red zone. Brock Purdy needs to use his legs. It's just amazing to see what the team looked like when their backs were against the wall. And, and you could, after the game, they admitted as much. They said that, they were fighting desperate. You listen to the game, you listen to the sound off of the sidelines. Yetur Gross-Matos comes off after his double sack reps in the second half of the game saying, hey, that's a playoff game. That's a playoff win. So their backs are against the wall. They know that they have to respond. The game that they had Sunday was nothing short of what we've been looking for the entire season. And not only just from the players, but from the coaching staff. I mean, Kyle being able to use Patrick Taylor Jr., Isaac Guerendo, Deebo Samuel, Keyshawn Vaughn even got some reps. I mean, everybody seemed to be able to get some reps at running back. You really like to see that Kyle was just kind of putting his best foot forward. And I think that's really what has been frustrating throughout the season is that we've been losing games, and some of them we deserve to lose, right? But what really sucks is when you just feel like you're kind of fighting with one hand behind your back. We shouldn't have lost that Arizona game. There's a lot of games we shouldn't have lost early,
Early. Those were heartbreakers, man. Heartbreakers.
Yeah. So, I've been very scrutinous of the team, as you know, but it's just the passion that's in me. It's what I did when I coached. It's what I did when I played. It's just the type of person I am. But it feels good to finally see these guys kind of use everything they got, empty the tank. There's only 4 more games left. I mean, what are we holding up? What are we saving for?
Exactly.
So I'd like to see they play desperate, and for what they get paid. That's American sports. All right. We are the ones who got to go schlep our jobs day to day and do the 9 to 5 and do the 9 to 5 song and dance. But, we come to this stuff because we want to release. We want something that's a piece of our own so we can go ahead and have some type of control over our lives. And the last thing we want to do is watch somebody who's living less to the standard that we have to live to just to make our day-to-day bills meet. And, slacking on the job is something that anybody will get canned for, So what I liked is, the common denominator over everything that I liked, whether it been the pass rush that we saw, running the ball, Kyle seeming to really be on top of, having a good game plan, especially early on in the game. Really the common denominator for me is effort. They looked like they really wanted to play. They looked like they were playing together. They were playing to the echo of the whistle. There were not a lot of tackles missed, just simple things that we know just aren't us. And it was good to see.
It was really good to see. And, I mean, going into the game, I had almost zero confidence the Niners would be able to pull this one out. Even though I'm a huge Niners fan, the way they've been playing, though, has been really bad. And coming off the Buffalo game, I mean, nothing looked like it was working at all. Coming into this game, or I should say, as this game started, they went and they drove right down the field, scored a touchdown. I mean, to sum it up, this game was over quick. We were up 21-0 just like that, and it felt like, man, where has this been all year? To see him use the play action, to see them throw the ball to the flat to Isaac Guerrero, and seeing him, getting those big gains, screen pass to George Kittle, which we haven't really done all year. And so there were a lot of things that they were doing in this game that I feel like we haven't seen all year. Even the play action pass where we threw it across the field to Juwan Jennings. Plays like that we haven't seen all year, and that a lot of us have been asking for Kyle to do all year. Go back to what works.
Yeah.
And the last time this season that I saw the Niners play like they did in previous years, especially last year, was in the second half against the Cowboys. When we came out of halftime, we were playing like the Niners. Like it was a lot of yak yardage, and they were getting the ball to Debo. They were getting the ball to Kittle. And we saw them doing some of the things that we've seen before, but then they kind of went away from that. We didn't see a lot of the empty backfield. We didn't see a lot of that. It was a lot of Juszczyk was in the backfield blocking a lot of the time. I would say Guerrero, he got blown up once as well, trying to make a block, which was kind of like,
protection.
Okay, that's not good. But overall, though, man, this was a great game to watch. And it really, it felt like, man, this is what we needed to see for a while now, and it felt good to see them win. But let me ask you, there was some talk about how after the game, there was, or I should say before the game on Saturday, they had a team meeting. And they had Brock Purdy and Demo Lenore talk in front of the team. And I think that's great that they gave them opportunities to kind of help lead this team. But my question is, when it comes to Demo Lenore, what have you seen from him this year? And have you been impressed with his play?
Oh, my God. What can't you say about Deommodore Lenore? The best thing you like about him is that he's a football player, but he's ours, right? We got equity. We drafted him. That's one thing that you got to love. Homegrown talent, West Coast kid, went to school out there, went to Oregon. So this is somebody who wants to be here. That's one. Yeah. Two, one thing that you love about Deommodore Lenore is that sometimes you got to find, it's got to come from the mouths of babes, man. Sometimes the truth just comes from kind of the lowest tier of practitioners on the team. And what I mean by that is that when Deommodore Lenore first came here, he was kind of looked at as like a little rascal. If you remember, Deommodore Lenore was kind of Brandon Ayuk's mentee. He was always up under Brandon Ayuk. They would go back and forth. They cut their teeth on each other. But really, it was very much top down. Brandon Ayuk was Deommodore Lenore's kind of his pro, kind of showing him the ropes, giving him his approach to the game, how to work, how to be first one there, last one to leave. And as you see how things have moved on, and we love BA, but we kind of fell astray for a little bit in the offseason trying to get his money. You got to break some eggs and make some omelets. I get it. But it's good to see that Deommodore Lenore was going through his own contract negotiations the entire time. And mum was the word, not a word. Went and got his money, has always shown up to play. Somebody that's always been what we've been kind of looking for since we really lost Emmanuel Mosley. We really haven't had a homegrown talent at corner that's really done anything consistent for us for a while. I mean, we've kind of been outsourcing that position if you really think about it. I mean, outside of we got Sherm back in the day, maybe Samuel Womack, which is killing me to see what he's doing across the league now. But we haven't really kept our guys. So for me, the roots stay with him. I love the fact that he's not just speaking up because he could be. You know what it could have been? It could have been Leonard Floyd stood up and said, "Enough is enough. You guys, we need to have this together." That'd have been a cool story. But we all would have been nudging each other like, he just got here. Yeah. Why is Leonard Floyd the one stepping up right now with all of these leaders in the room, right? So I like the fact that it was guys who understand what the culture is all about. I love the fact that it was guys who have been paid or who are going to get paid, a la Brock, right? Because Brock spoke, and they responded. You know, I feel as though that on a team, as the years go on, everybody's intentions get a little muddied. You know, guys get paid, your focus change, your desires change, your goals change. You know, life happens. You know, everybody's not as hungry as they were in 2019 and 2021 and 22, right? Things are contextualized. So sometimes you need those younger guys who still understand the true message of, we play every day. We play to the echo of the whistle. We're ultimate pros. It doesn't matter what game we're going to go get at the end of the year. It matters about the game that's in front of us. And guys like Deommodore Lenoir and Brock Purdy, they're kind of your pure souls to kind of cut through a lot of the stuff that's happening on our roster. So I thought it was something that was also good because they responded during the season. But it's also something that I've been looking for us to do in the future, right? Because we have to transition from what we had. They can't be here forever. So I like the fact that young guys are stepping up that are going to be here a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, they asked Brock Purdy about this today at the media presser, and let's hear what he had to say about that.
And Cambiar said that they chose you and Demo because you guys are gritty. We asked Kyle about it. He said you guys are authentic. What was your message to the team Saturday night?
I mean, I'm not going to go into complete detail, but I do think it was just important for, our team to hear, I guess from a guy on defense, Demo, and then myself, just what it's going to take, moving forward and what our mindset has to be, and at the end of the day, man, just playing desperate football with where we're at in the season and we don't have room for error. Like, now's the time to get up and go and to create momentum and energy for each other, both sides of the ball, playing as a team. And I think just hearing that from players and having it be a player-led team, it's important, man. It's huge. And so, especially with where we're at. So, yeah, that's what was said.
And I think that's huge. Of him as a leader to come out and kind of lead his team, him and Demo to come out there and lead the team. Both players have been playing really hard this year. And when we look at the numbers, Brock Purdy was 20-25 for 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 145.4 quarterback rating. He had a really good game. Now, we've all talked about the limitations that Brock might have compared to some of the other big names out there, like a Josh Allen or a Pat Mahomes. But I think that, Brock Purdy has played well. There's been some talk, too, about, should the Niners give him that contract where it's like $60 million a year or, the $60 to $65 million. Personally, I think they should offer him somewhere around 35 to 45. I think Baker Mayfield money is right on par with where he should be at. Now, if he came into this year, or let's say he played this year and was having monster numbers, then obviously that's going to change because your production kind of dictates your value. But to me, I feel like they should at least offer him a contract somewhere between 35 and 45 million. What do you think about the idea of a contract for Brock Purdy before his 4th year?
Well, I feel like you can go twofold with this. One, you can go ahead and just go full hog and say, give him everything he wants, right? $60 million. And, I think that would be a little bit forward, to be honest. One thing that I will say is that you got to be careful because there's 2 schools of thought with Brock Purdy. There's what the coaching staff feels about him, and then there's what the organization feels about him, right? In my opinion, the coaching staff, they know what Brock is. They understand that he saved their bacon and, he kind of came out of nowhere and did a great job with really kind of footing the bill. On the other hand, the organization, they're all about optics, winning games, right? And they know that Brock Purdy more than foots the bill when it comes to winning games in the National Football Game as far as face value is concerned, being the face of an organization. For me, I tend to agree with you. I think that Brock, he can hover around that Baker Mayfield deal. There's a couple of deals that I have in mind that I wouldn't mind Brock seeing. There's some deals that kind of harken back to the past. The Geno Smith deal in 2023, 3 years, $75 million, $40 million guaranteed at $25 million per. I wouldn't be mad at that deal. Also, The Derek Carr deal in 2023, 4 years, 150 million, 60 million guaranteed with 37.5 million per year. I wouldn't be upset with that deal at all. Also, if you really want to do it, we could stay right in the division. Dre, with Matt Stafford, 4 years, 160 million, 63 million guaranteed with 40 per year. The deal he got in 2022. And then, of course, there's the Baker deal. So there's many ways to skin a cat. In my opinion, I just don't believe that you go for broke. You try to hit the ceiling just, for what? To say that we did it?
Exactly.
Outside of that, I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't say that there was anything that Brock has done to warrant it. And then also, too, how do we know that Brock wants that type of money? Now, I get it. All money ain't good money. And, I'm going to touch on this, even though it may be a little bit of a touchy subject now. It may be a little bit of a too soon moment. But Brandon Ayuk, stretching for that extra couple of million to get on the end of his contract and then coming in and admitting, hey, I may have kind of put a little too much dip on my chip. I was a little uncooperative. I could have done better, and to see, where he is right now at 30 million per, and with 2 injuries on a serious knee, come on, let's be honest, Dre. He's gonna come back, and let's say at 27 or at 28, okay, whatever he could have signed at. I'm gonna tell you, he has waived that extra 2 to 3 more million that he left on the table. Would have been the grace that we would give him coming back off this injury. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Now, at 30 per, all right, we're looking at you to hit the ground running, Jack. Okay? Yep. As soon as you get this. Come on. And there's anybody from a human standpoint that would want to say, well, we got to wait on him. We got to see what's going on. Not at 30 million, bruh. Something's got to happen, right? So either you're going to take a pay cut and kind of give back those funds, or you're going to get out there and be something that we know is pretty much an uphill battle, fresh off of 2 major injuries to one knee. So I think Brock sees stuff like that. I think that Brock sits back and can see a Christian McCaffrey, who was the highest paid running back in the NFL, and then doubles down right when his guaranteed money comes out and then gets paid again. There's a lot of deals and kind of, I can say, sins that have been happening contractually on this team. And I just think that if the Yorks believe that Brock Purdy is anything the type of man that they think he is, then Brock himself has to see this and understands that, hey, man, I want to be in a partnership with my organization.
Absolutely.
There's a difference, man. There's a difference. You can either get to the table, right? You can get to the buffet and try to fit literally every piece of food on your plate and look like a complete hog and not get everything but ruin it all for everybody. Or you can go up there politely, take what you need, and understand that there's room to fight another day. I'm going to come back up here, right? So my thing is that I see just how Brock is moving. Before he's even gotten this payday, he's very much trying to be in lockstep with the organization. He's trying to be a face for the organization. And I think that quarterbacks, when it comes to quarterbacks, not necessarily any other position that's a little bit fleeting as far as injury is concerned, but quarterback is an equity position. It's not like a receiver. They're going to be sitting there looking to set up to be there about 10 years, especially if you get an organization that believes in you. So I think Brock is going to look at it this way. 40 million with Brock right now will be more than enough. And I'd be happy.
Absolutely. I think so.
I think so.
Because at the end of the day, when you start looking at the $60+ million, then you have to start comparing him to the elite quarterbacks that are out there, the superheroes that literally exist in reality, which is like the Josh Allens, the Pat Mahomes, the Lamar Jacksons. And he's not at that caliber. Now, does that mean he's a bad quarterback? No. But he's not at that level. And so because of that, that allows you to say, okay, well, we're going to pay you what we feel that you're worth. Now, is this a way of talking down to you, or to say, you're only worth this much because you're not as good as these guys? It's just, there's a separation. These guys have a higher pedigree. These guys have rocket arms. They can run. They can do all kinds of stuff. When you watch Josh Allen or you watch Lamar Jackson or, God forbid, Pat Mahomes, you see a clear difference in what they can do compared to a lot of quarterbacks in the league. So I think that hovering around that Baker Mayfield type money is where the Niners need to be at, and that's going to benefit them in the long run. Now, I want to ask you real quick about Isaac Guerendo. He had 15 rushes for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. I thought he looked dynamic. He looked exciting. Granted, he sprained his foot, which I hope he's able to play on Thursday, which he was able to walk off on his own volition, so I would feel like he should be able to go. But what we saw from Guerendo, I thought that was so promising on what we saw. His speed, his catching ability, receiving ability. What did you think of Isaac Guerendo against the Bears?
My word, Dre. If you caught any of the live watch show against the Bears, because I know you did, but man, my heart sang watching this kid finally get more carries, man.
Yeah.
I love his skill set. He is an unorthodox runner, okay? He runs high, all right? Doesn't necessarily run behind his pads yet, but he gets away with that because he's such a big body. He's over 230 pounds. So what happens is that he casts a big target for tacklers to kind of get into his pads and get up under him. But one thing about him is that what he lacks in pad level, he more than brings up in foot speed and athleticism.
Yeah.
He got stronger as the game went on. Rarely do you see running backs just kind of get a full slate, especially in this offense. It was good to see an entire menu, like him starting out slow, having a couple of good easy runs, getting stronger as the game went on, and closing out. Of course, we talked about about the foot injury that he picked up. But for me, I really loved just how he was running off tackle. They kind of got away from the outside zone because vision isn't really a strong suit right now. He's a young runner. Right. So inside of our run fits, you got to be kind of precise down there. And if you don't necessarily do exactly what you need to do, then there's built-in mechanisms for you to bounce, bang, or cut these routes on your track. And if you don't pick one of the three the correct way, it's kind of on you as a runner and not the offensive line. What kind of sucks about that, running the inside and outside zone, is that there's way too many keys for running backs to have to go after with the offensive line as bad as ours. So for me, I like to be able to get these guys going downhill. The shortest distance to the touchdown, to the end zone, is north to south, not east to west. And for me, we ran some things like duo, right? Running some north-south body-on-body gap schemes. Love the fact that we got Isaac Guerendo hitting up inside the seams quick. There was one of his best runs for me against the Bears was just a 3-yard inside run. But I'm talking about he got stopped in the backfield, hit 2 jump cuts, evaded one guy, pushed past another, and lunged forward for an extra 2 yards to finish off what would have been a tackle behind of line of scrimmage for loss. That right there for me is telling me that you're feeling it as a running back. Like your synapses is firing, right? You're not thinking, you're just responding, right?
No, he's looking more and more confident every time he gets the ball, and that's what I love seeing from Guerendo.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely more comfortable. And that's the thing with running backs. I put out a tweet about a week ago and I kind of got some traction on it. I really didn't mean for it, but I didn't like the usage and the tempo and the workload of Christian McCaffrey and JP Mason by Kyle Shanahan. It really confused me. I didn't understand how you got a guy like Jordan Mason that you had to play because Christian wasn't here. Granted, gotcha. But then you get a game against the Seahawks where Isaac Guerendo basically shows you I can handle the game, right? I may not be able to do everything inside of your offense, but there's ways for you to get me loose on here. As a coach, man, it's your job to unleash guys on the field, bro. That's your job.
Absolutely.
It is not your job to tell another player why he can't be on the field. That's not your job, okay? And for me, I feel as though that because we've had so many good players for longer than usual, right? About 4 to 5 years, which is really a window that you don't get in the NFL. Yeah. I feel like Kyle has gotten a little comfortable. And because of that, without Christian, I felt as though that maybe he would just kind of wake up and understand, like, all right, I'm kind of waiting on this other shoe to drop, but it hasn't really dropped yet. And Jordan Mason really is good. And I was really scared or really kind of skittish about putting Isaac Correndo out there. He really doesn't see things, but he kind of got away with something. And I just think that Kyle looks at things as one-offs, not foreshadowing. Not like, man, let me try this. So what confused me is you don't have damn near the leading rusher in the NFL and then shut him down cold for a month, for 3 straight weeks. You don't do that.
No,
you don't. You don't. And what really killed me is that and then the game that you choose to turn him back on, it's in a blizzard. In the snow.
And he gets hurt.
Come on. And he hasn't run hard in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And you know he's not banging in practice. So it's like, what are we doing here? And then for the 3 weeks that we see Christian, what do we see? The first time that Christian even looked remotely himself was in that Bills game, the first half. Outside of that, he labored. He's not back. We need to see more Jordan Mason. It's just, for me, I believe that Kyle, he kind of uses this team like he's playing Madden with the injuries and the fatigue turned off. And he's just calling plays.
It really does, dude. It really does. And it's crazy, too, because when you look at, at Detroit, they got Montgomery and Gibbs, one who's a bruising running back, and another one who has all speed. And you look at that and you go, well, why don't we do that? Why don't we utilize our running backs the way they do? Instead, he wants McCaffrey out there every play. Now, granted, McCaffrey is an amazing player and creates mismatches wherever he's out in the field. But clearly, he was not in football shape when he came back. In the Buffalo game, he was running at a speed. He was running at a different speed compared to everyone else in the field. I was like, wow, this is intense. And then he got hurt. It was like, oh.
Yeah.
So, they said he might come back if we make the playoffs. That's a big if, because a lot of things have to happen for us to make the playoffs at this point. But one thing I wanted to ask about was Kyle Shanahan. Now, so far this year, it feels like whatever Kyle has done has not worked. Every call that he makes, it seems like it always backfires on him. Throwing that pass against the Seahawks on, on second down that Brock missed on Debo, that really cost us the game when really he should have just ran the ball. It felt like in this game, he was making the calls that all of us wanted him to make all year long. Even on fourth down, he was like, fuck it, I'm going to go for it.
Right.
And not giving the ball to Jake Moody, because I think even he was kind of like, you know what, I think Jake might miss the field goal. I'm just going to go for it. Fuck it. What do we got to lose? And I love to see him be more aggressive and keep the ball rolling, because the last thing you want to do, you're up 21-0, right? And then you kick a field goal, and then you kind of play conservative, and they come back and they score a touchdown, and then they stop you, they come back and score a touchdown. Then the game's totally different, right? No, he stayed with it. Unfortunately, he didn't get that touchdown, even though he should have, but they got the field goal as it is. But I love seeing him be more aggressive, and he was throwing that red flag around everywhere. I was like, holy cow. So, Kyle Shanahan, a lot of talk about, should the Niners trade Kyle Shanahan? I think Mike Florio posted some bullshit about that, which John Lynch shot down. What's your take on Kyle Shanahan? Do you think that he's a coach that we should stick with for the next few years, or would you like to see them make a change if we don't make the playoffs?
He's got 2 years.
Yeah.
He's got 2 years. Presidents don't even get over 8 years. All right, so let's go ahead and just level set real quick. What are we truly talking about? Kyle for 12 years, Kyle for 15 years. Like, what are we talking about? We're at 8 years. So it's time to have a real conversation. Not because we don't like them, not because it's personal, but because any NFL head coach that's been on a team for 8 years and doesn't have a Super Bowl, it's got to be some pretty extenuating circumstances. Like, we got to figure out what the hell's going on for you to even get this type of special look. So that's one. Two, I'd like to see some normalcy out of Kyle, because as far as I'm concerned, his tenure here has been polarizing at best. He's got 4 winning seasons and 4 losing seasons. Nothing in the middle. When he has a winning season, he either goes to the NFC Championship game or a Super Bowl. When he has a losing season, it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah,
like the
really
wheels.
Is.
Yeah, it's not even close. It's not even like an 8-8 season or 8-7 or 9. No, it's just complete failure. So that's another thing for me with Kyle. Now, I think that everything plays the same way. You could talk about the bad, you could talk about the good. That's why I said that he has two, for a couple of reasons. One is the 4 years of success. All right. You can't ignore that. Right. We just came out of a Super Bowl. Our own competence as an organization is on the line as well. So we've got to understand that, hey, we can't be the girlfriend who's too hot to trot at 45 years old because there ain't any good men out there. Nah, boo-boo, it's you. You 5 years off 50. If you can't hold a man, something's wrong with you. And we don't want to be the organization that looks like that too. We're not too far off from the Jim Tomsula and the Chip Kelly fiasco. So we can't be seen making knee-jerk reactions, right? Because we'll scare off anybody else who's competent. That's one. That's two. Three, Kyle, he needs to own his mess. Hey, man, you wanted to be final say. You wanted to be the man with the plan. You wanted to be the only guy where the buck stops with you. Well, guess what, goddammit? The buck stops with you. You signed Trent Williams. You stood on the table for Brandon Ayuk. You went to Christian McCaffrey's wedding and got him signed. You're the one who went out and made Kyle Juszczyk the highest paid fullback in the league. You're the one who has gotten all of your targets and productivity into Deebo Samuel. He hasn't given you anything since the Super Bowl, not even the Super Bowl. This is all on you. And the last thing we want to do is have an emotional reaction, kick Kyle out of the door, and then we got nothing to explain ourselves for anybody who else is looking at an aging Trent Williams and an out-of-shape Deebo Samuel, a hurt Brandon Ayuk, an old Christian McCaffrey, and an old George Kittle. It's going to be like, well, who the hell wants to come here? And you guys are in Cap L? What else is next? So a little bit of this is making him kind of dig his grave at gunpoint in a sense. Like, it's like, hey, you got to stay here for this. You're dragging us out of here. So that's the third reason. Also, I believe that if we are going to move on, it's got to be competent. 1 year to get us out of this mess, all right, and to see what we do with 1 year with everybody having a year to get healthy. Brandon Ayuk could be back by mid-season. Dre Greenlaw will be back healthy. Tyler Hufanga will be back healthy. We'll have a full draft under us. Dominic Pooney, Malik Mustafa, Renardo Green. These boys will have a full season under their belt and be starters. We'll be able to do something with Javon Hargraves, which it seems like we already did something with this restructuring of his deal, and we'll be able to get a new batch of young guys coming in, which is fine. And we have to fix free agency. So there's so many ifs and buts that Kyle can hang on to, on top of saying, hey, man, I'm tired. He could simply just say that. Hey, we have played so many freaking games coming out of a Super Bowl, losing all of these players. My coaching staff gets poached every offseason. Come on, it took me to the bitter end to find a DC. We were late on free agency. We were late on signing contracts. We barely knew what we were doing for the first round of the draft because the Chiefs jumped in front of us and took us Xavier Worthy, which I truly still believe that's who they wanted.
I think that's who they wanted. I really do.
And
they needed Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
They needed a speed threat.
Come on, man. And Kyle could say, man, if they show fight for the last 4 weeks, Kyle could just say, man, give me a fucking mulligan, man. Like, come on. I took you guys to the Super Bowl, dude. I'm fucking tired as hell. Kyle looks gassed.
He does. When you look at what he used to look like 6 years ago, he looks completely different now. One of the things that I thought was important, though, was the fact that after the Bills game, probably because he was emotional, he did make a comment that I think was good. That he said, "Yeah, this team is not as good as the previous teams. Every team is different." I love that he said that because I think the rest of the team was like, "Oh shit!" He's basically saying, we're not as good. But he was being honest, not in a way where it was degrading the team. He was being honest about his team, and I think that helped to further motivate them. Now, obviously, Deebo Samuel, you mentioned him earlier. We saw the post, not, what is it? This one right here. Not struggling, just not getting the ball. I don't know about that, Deebo. I think you need to check yourself because, he's not as elusive as he used to be. But, that is what it is. But let's talk about Rams versus Niners Thursday night as we wrap things up. We're talking to the coach, host of the Coach's Huddle over on YouTube here on the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. When we look at this game, we saw what the Rams did against the Bills. The Bills blew us out, and in this game, the Rams kind of blew them out, even though the Bills came back and made it a close game. This is going to be a challenge for Nick Sorensen and the defense to contain Stafford in that passing game, because Kyron Williams really hasn't done much on the ground. It's all about Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and their ability to move the ball through the air. Now, our secondary is very good, and then getting Talanoa Hufanga back made a huge difference out there compared to Jair Brown, which I don't know what has happened to him, but he is now the Jake Brendel of the secondary, where it's like, hey, man, don't let him out there. I don't know what he's doing right now. Let's not even go there. But when it comes to Thursday's game, how do you feel the Niners should attack the Rams, and do you think that the Niners are going to win this game Thursday night?
All right, so number one, it's not the Rams, but it's everybody who we play. We survive by our run game. We got to run the ball. Yeah. That's the biggest thing against the Rams. For me, like I said, I'm not too impressed with their defense. I mean, for lack of purpose, they gave up 42 points to the Bills.
And they were up.
Yeah. So I'm not really concerned about their defense. Really what it is Matt Stafford. You can't let Matt Stafford get comfortable. If there was ever a time for us to start using disguises and turn up that defense to be able to put pressure on Matt Stafford, this will be the game. Matt Stafford is one of the most elite quarterbacks in the game if you give him time. If you let him sit back there and be comfortable, he'll pick you apart, and he'll do it all day with ease. One thing about it, though, is that he's a little older, and if you get him off his spot, he begins to get disheveled. He'll throw inaccurate passes. He'll let things go. He'll start making business decisions, kind of padding his feet, and that's what we have to do. Another thing that we can't do is that we can't let them have what, like you just mentioned, what they usually don't have week to week, which is a run game. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum are nice additions to what they do, but they don't necessarily have a run game that can carry a game. One thing that we got to do is shut that thing down early. Also, this is going to be a big matchup game. Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua, these are the guys that seem to get open on their own. It's not necessarily scheme with the Rams, but it's about matchups. Guys beating guys one-on-one, playing backyard football. You see those things with guys like Matt, quarterback out of Cincinnati? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow. Yeah. Joe Burrow did it to us with 19 consecutive completions over in Santa Clara, where if you give the quarterbacks like that time, they'll just go back there and just play catch with you and the whole day, So one thing about Matt Stafford is that he's got enough arm talent and enough savvy for him to lay into the weeds. That's another thing about Matt, too, is that he's a 60-minute quarterback. When we played the Rams, he was struggling, not doing that much. It wasn't until the last couple of drives where he decided to really turn it on against us.
You could see it in his face. He was like, I'm going to win this goddamn game. He has that kind of that moxie where he's like, no, screw this. We're going to win this damn game. I don't care what these guys think,
100%, man. I mean, you saw the next to last drive of the game that they had on offense, that nice over route in the deep third to Tutu Atwell to kind of close the game and get him within field goal range. The game was all but over. And that was just him kind of putting the dagger in us. So right now, they're friendly foes. We understand what they bring because they damn near run our offense. They're a little bit different as far as the weapons are concerned. One thing that's different about this team is that they're much healthier than they were the last time that we saw them. There was no Puka Nacua. There was no what's their other receiver? Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp didn't play against us either. But George Kittle didn't play in that game either. So we get George back this game, which is huge because he's turning on. Also, I'm glad that I brought him up. Spam George Kittle. I'm over it. He's the best player on this offense. Full stop. Let's stop it. You got to get him in the red zone. You have to get him in the seams. He opens things up for all of the receivers on the outside. Debo can't get open. Ricky Pearsall is a shell of him, so we don't know where Ricky Pearsall's been for the past month. It really is Jawan Jennings, whoever we have at running back, and George Kittle. So
That's it.
The biggest thing that we need right now is we got to get Brock to protect the ball, Kyle to get the ball out as fast as possible. One thing that I also like to do with this offense, because we don't have as many weapons, we got to start speeding up the tempo on offense. We're way too slow. One thing about, look at week 1 against the Jets, we were whooping the Jets' ass the entire game. What's the first drive that they got on us? That's when Aaron Rodgers and them, they went hurry up, right? Went hurry up against us, opened up, went over a 90-plus yard drive on us, scored. You look at the Seattle Seahawks, right? When they came up against us, against the second time they played us with Geno, hurry up. They started picking up the tempo against our defense. This last game that we played, when we played against the Bears, we were killing the Bears. What got the Bears going? They came into the second half, and what did they do? Hurry up. They started going tempo on us, right? So it's things like that where it's the game within the game. It's, I'm going to give you something that's a tick faster, a yard quicker, a play that's in a different quadrant of the field that we haven't been doing. And those are the things that help us a lot. Another thing, too, is that because we're so vanilla on offense, we basically have about a full month worth of screens that we can use every game because we don't run them. And we could do it for the rest of the season, and people will still be surprised. That's how little we run screens, that we could do it every game for the rest of the season out, and people and defenses would still be shocked. We need to run more screens. It's a cheat code for the offense. It keeps the defense balanced. It keeps them honest. They don't get to pin their ears back and blitz against us and twist and use stunts. They got to use a little bit more vanilla fits against us because they could stunt themselves out of a screen if they get too happy with that. But when you don't run it, you let defenses kind of do whatever they want to you. I like the fact that we've done screens. And then also, screens are yards that are unabated by runners, meaning that George Kittle is not the same athlete that he was. We see it on the field. But if you get George out in the open field, he can still be George. Right? You get George, you scheme George open, he can still be George. He just can't do the zero lifts anymore, where he literally just, New Orleans Saints game carries 4 dudes down the field. Like, those days are over,
Straight
right?
Beast mode, yeah.
Right. Like, those days are over, but he's still got juice left. So those are a lot of things that we could do. I'll close it with a little bit of an analogy. We can't be the Redcoats. We got to be the Minutemen. We can't stand out in the middle of the field against heavy cavalry, side by side, waiting on cannon fire. We just don't have the bodies. We got to draw these dudes past the tree line, get them inside of the woods, and play guerrilla warfare. That's how we're going to win games for the rest of the season.
I love it. Coach, thank you so much for coming on here and talking Niners. We'll have to do it again. I think Niners are going to win this game and get back into it, but we'll see how it plays out Thursday night. Coach, thanks so much for coming on. Guys, when we come back, we're going to have Drew Forder on the show talking Giants baseball. You're watching the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.